So this video is kind of going to sound like I'm hating on Godwin's corpse a little bit, I guess. But in reality, I actually really like Fia's questline. It's one of the most satisfying questlines in the game, in my opinion, because I think it gives one of the best endings. And how it ties in with Dee's quest is pretty cool. Although I wish we learned more about Dee and his brother. I mean, I think that they're like original inhabitants of the eternal cities, but they believed in the Golden Order, so they were shunned because it said that they only found solace in the Golden Order. But this isn't about that. This is about Godwin. Alright, in this episode of Stone Lore, we're going to be talking about Godwin, but more importantly, we're going to be talking about the many faces of Godwin. And by many faces, I'm of course referring to how the deathblight spores appear in his likeness. So Godwin was the son of Marika the Eternal and Godfrey the Lord of the Battlefield. He had two brothers, though it's doubtful he knew of their existence, but was best friends with Fortisax the dragon and was said to be loved by all. And his death supposedly shocked Marika to her core, although it's possible that she either unknowingly or knowingly had a hand in the events that led up to his death during a night known as the Night of Black Knives, in which the demigod Rani, daughter of Renala and Radagon respectively, would orchestrate both her own death and Godwin's death to happen simultaneously, resulting in her body dying and her spirit living on, allowing her to exist freely of the greater will in its vassal fingers, much like her brother Rykard, though much less disgusting. The opposite was the case for Godwin, whose spirit died and whose body wound up in a state of undeath. This could also be seen as a side effect of Marika's binding of the Rune of Death, as it's hinted at by a finger reader crone that his death was supposed to happen, but not quite like this. And it can be interpreted that Marika knew about it, and it factored into her decision to seal away destined death in the first place. But this made Godwin the first of the dead gods, or demigods in his case, and though more demigods would die in the events that would follow, none of them ended up with Godwin's condition. And despite the best efforts of both Fortisax and even Miquella the Unalloyed, who himself would end up in a pretty fucked up state when the events of the game roll around, no cure was found for his undeath, and he was eventually laid to rest at the roots of the Erd Tree in deep-root depths. The roots of the Erd Tree itself, where his throne is located, possibly being the remnants of the Great Tree we see mentioned in various item descriptions referring to the Crucible of Life, though the Great Tree in question is most likely where Knight Celeria is and where you fight her at. Now I guess this is where things start to get a bit from Softian, and after a while Godwin's body started growing into the Erd Tree's roots, kind of like the three-eyed raven, creating deathroots in the process, and then it started mutating into a fish-like creature with a scaly lower half, reminiscent of some kind of twisted-ass mermaid's fish half. And if that's not enough, his body then began spreading through the extensive root system under the lands between, like a virus, leaving all manner of undead in its wake. Though there's no wheel skeletons, unfortunately. There's a funny theory that Godwin is Gravelord Nito, though I would have to say that Gravelord Nito's fate is rather tame in comparison to what happened to Godwin and what he's slowly becoming. Evidence of his virus can no doubt be found at nearly every catacomb found in the game, usually in the boss room where you can see the corpses growing into the roots of the Erd Tree, often accompanied by a face of Godwin. Now everyone knows the iconic face of Godwin in the Stormvale basement. This isn't Godwin's face, however, as we see his head, or what's left of his head, is still attached to the roots of the Erd Tree. No, this is indeed a piece of him. It's one of the deathblight spores, just a particularly big one with the main spores cut out to make it resemble a face with its eyes closed. So what exactly is deathblight? Deathblight on the surface is a status debuff similar to the curse buildup from Dark Souls. However, instead of crystals, it manifests itself in sharp root-like tendrils or branches called deathroot. Deathroot shoots grow into trees that also bear the face of Godwin. These trees can be found at places like Summonwater Village or parts of Atlas and Faramazula, often accompanied by like blighted giants or whatever the fuck they are, these deathblight giant dudes. These shoots mysteriously began spreading through the Erd Tree after the Night of Black Knives, and as a result it is sought out by Golden Order fundamentalists to feed to Garank, a beast clergyman with the Rune of Death sealed away within him. And despite technically originating from the divine, these fundamentalists hunt out deathblight and those that live within death with great prejudice. But these deathblight spores, or faces of Godwin, can be found in the weirdest places. In the Altus Plateau near Lane Dell, directly above the deep-root depths. In fact, I think these guys are actually located directly above Godwin's throne. But anyway, a unique subgroup of crabs can be found in a small pond area. These crabs spew deathblight and have the face of Godwin on their head, showing that his deathblight is now starting to infect even living wildlife of an area if it's close enough to his corpse. Most commonly, though, these spores can be found in the catacombs, as I already mentioned, and there's evidence of his spores even as far away as Farum Azula, where a large number of blight giants reside. These blight giants are also called worm faces, due to the worms on their face. At first glance, though, it almost looks like they've got some kind of tentacle beard, which is kind of funny and seems like a Bloodborne reference. But these guys can be found in the Altus Plateau near a ruin and the crumbling Farum Azula. The ones at crumbling Farum Azula could predate Godwin's corpse as due to Farum Azula's association with the Rune of Death and all that. The worm faces also make a unique wailing sound, which indicates that they're in pain, and judging by how their head has become like a giant deathblight spore or pus pocket thing filled with worms, I'd say that's got to be pretty painful. And then there's also the basilisks, who besides returning from previous games appear to have a slightly updated look, but are more or less the same nuisance they were in the last game we saw them in. However, upon closer inspection of their false eyes and the eyes of a face of Godwin, they appear to be the same thing, which isn't surprising due to the fact that the basilisks are associated with the deathblight. Shit, basilisks could have even been created, or rather spawned, from Godwin's corpse. I mean, shit, he looks like he's even turning into a giant one, sort of. But these annoying little fucks could be acting as carriers of a sort to spread around the deathblight virus even further and wider than Godwin's roots reach. And by the events of the game, Godwin, he isn't looking so golden anymore. In fact, he's looking rather Lovecraftian, sort of like some kind of weird sea monster. Some have said that his current appearance could be tied to the Crucible attempting to return, and that the remnants of the great tree that the Erd tree is possibly sitting on top of infected his corpse and caused it to spread death like a virus, possibly indicating that the undead existed during the Crucible of Life, which was the age prior to the Erd tree when all life was blended together. And similarly to how the Crucible would manifest itself in the form of divine horns on Godwin's brothers, it would manifest divine scales on Godwin's corpse after his rebirth as the Prince of Death. Now either way, what we do know is that regardless of the specifics on how he got like that, he's spreading through the lands underground like a wildfire. But it's not all bad. In the end, he gets to clap Fia's cheeks. So maybe that was his plan all along. It was just one long plan of one man just trying to get laid. Makes sense to me, at least. Well, anyway, though, that's really all I have on that subject. I really hope you guys enjoyed it, found it informative. If you liked it, please like. If you like my videos, please subscribe. If you didn't like it, please dislike. If you have any counter opinions or theories of your own, please share them in the comments. I love that shit. The next video I have will probably either be about the demigods or maybe it'll be about something different. I'm not really sure yet, but I will see you guys next time. Please have a good one. I appreciate all the feedback you guys have been giving me. That's fucking awesome. But have a good day. See ya.
Finally, it is returned to its rightful place. The stolen hallowbrand of the exalted noble. And now, I must bid you goodbye as well, though I ask you deliver this message to the Round Table Hold. I am Fia, deathbed companion, hark Round Table. Disturb not the death of Godwin, the exalted. We, who humbly live in death, live in waiting, to one day welcome our Lord. What right does anyone have to object? Our Lord will rise, the Lord of the many and the meek.